my screen now, so you all should see the login page. And I just do want to note that this is going to be our test environment. So you'll see things like the word test listed here. This is not yet the production environment. So that's kind of the one major difference you'll see here. This URL is not something that you'll be able to access and get to permitting just yet. Once we go live, that URL will be distributed to everyone. So it'll look just the same here. Some of the words will be a little bit different. Obviously, you won't see the word test, but the information will and the layout will be very, very similar. That being said, this is what we call the login page. You'll see that there is a login here for eTRIPS, and you see a sign into Okta. That's where you all will be signing in to the permitting system. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a few minutes after we create an account. On the right-hand side, you'll see that there is an important information section. In this box is where some news or announcements or things like that would be posted by the state of Montana. If there's any alerts or new information about the website that they wish to communicate to everyone before they log in, this is where that information will be posted. On the left-hand side, under helpful links, there's a couple of links here. There's a create company account, which we'll run through here in just a second. There's the upload insurance. If you click on that, that gives you the ability to upload insurance to specific USDOT numbers or specific company names. You can do a search for that company by DOT or by name. And then that allows you the ability to upload an insurance document to that particular company. The user training resources. This is where you'll be able to find some training materials that'll be that are kind of helpful guides on how to use the system. Two of those guides are going to be called a customer user training packet and a creating a new account. So one packet will show you how to in more detail how to utilize the system, create permits and things like that. The other packet will show you how to create new accounts. And like I said, we'll touch on both of those aspects here in just a minute at a high level. But once we go live, those packets will be made available to you via the user training resources link on the dashboard, or excuse me, on the login page. So that is basically the login page. Like I said, you got your helpful information on the right, your helpful links on the left, your important information on the right, and then of course your login to eTRIPS. We're not migrating any account data from your previous system. So all accounts will be created new in the new system. And that is where we will start with creating a company account. So on the login page, we click that, and then you got a few options. You'll select the one that's applicable to your company or your account type. You have a USDOT or your permit service, and you'll be issuing permits in that you won't be issuing permits in your company name, but in other carrier names. And then of course you don't have a DOT, but you're still needing a permit, and you're a government agency. So for our purposes, we're going to select that I'll be issuing permits in my name, but do not have a USDOT. And then you get your option to create the account. On the very next page, it's going to capture some information that you'll need to have in order to create your account. It's going to ask for the company information, which includes company name, phone number, and a lot of these things are required, such as you see the red asterisk here. Company name and phone number and email. Some of the other things are not required. So, for example, the DBA, because not all companies have a DBA. But for our purposes, we will go ahead and create an account. All right, 1 second here, and I'll just type in customer training for my company name, and then I'll type in a fake phone number. And I'll go ahead and put my email address in here. That way, if we need to see an email come through, I can get that. And I'm going to select email for my delivery method. The delivery method is how would you like to receive your permits after it's been issued? Would you like to receive it via email, fax, or web download? Web download just means you won't receive it in email or fax, but you will have the ability to download it from your dashboard, which I'll show you how to do as well. I've seen a lot of people select web download or email. Those are the two easier options. Typically, email is going to be, I guess, your most easiest option if you have access to an email account. And then because we're requesting an account that does not have a DOT number, there is a field here that needs to be completed to explain the reason that you are requesting an account and why you do not have a DOT number, why you're requesting an account without a DOT number. So it is a required field, and this reason and the account will require approval by the state of Montana. So they will be able to, review this reason and make a decision on, the account's approval. So I will just put a reason in here, and then Miranda's on the line. She'll be able to review that reason on her end and approve this account for us in just a few minutes.
Hey, Kit, we have a question. Oh, Miranda answered it. Never mind.
All right. And then down right below that, you do have to enter in your physical and mailing addresses. As you can see here, there is a note that says PO boxes are not accepted for physical addresses. So do not enter a PO box in here. If you do enter a PO box and have this account submitted, it's possible that upon review, your account could get denied. So definitely enter in your correct physical address. And then you have the option here to select same as physical, so that'll just copy down your mailing address, or excuse me, your physical address to your mailing address. And I'm just gonna change my email address, or excuse me, my shoot address there. This is just an email address that I often use. And then right below that, you do have to create your user login along with this account. What that means is you have to type in your first name, your last name, and then your Okta login name. So as I understand it, a lot of carriers already have an Okta login name, with your previous business with the state of Montana. If you have that, enter that in here. And if you don't have that, we do give you the ability to create your Okta login with this link. So you could click that link and go off to Okta to create your account, or excuse me, create your Okta login. Once you create your Okta login, you'll come back here to enter it into this particular field, Okta login name. But for our purposes, I do have already an Okta login that I want to use, or that I have available to use for this particular customer. So I'm going to put my previously existing Okta login name in there. And then, of course, I got to have my email and a phone number. All right, and I'm just going to click create company. And as you can see, account creation pending review and approval, you'll be notified by email upon completed account review. So I'm just going to click return to login. And at this point, you're waiting for an email. Miranda, if you could please approve that account. You're waiting for an email from the system to let you know that the account has been approved.
What's that?
Your account has been approved.
All right, thanks.
I don't know how much attention you pay. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can.
Miranda, could you please mute all on that? There should be a mute all option in the members. All right. So we're going to go ahead and log in now with that account we just made. Sign into Okta. And then I have my account saved here. I'll just click next. And then it's going to ask me for my password. And now we're logged in as the account that we just made. So as you can see on this page, this is the carrier's dashboard. This is the regular carrier's permit dashboard. I do want to touch on a few differences that we'll see between a carrier's dashboard and the permit services dashboard, and we'll dive into the permit services dashboard as well. But just to highlight a few of the differences, so for permit services, you're ordering permits for specific companies, so you'll have the ability to search for specific companies. You'll also need to upload insurances for specific companies. So permit services will have the ability to do that. And you also have the ability to upload vehicles to specific companies via our vehicle import functionality. And those are just a couple of the highlight differences, which we'll touch on again when we get to the permit service dashboard. But, and again, this is the regular customers dashboard. So we'll get started here on the admin panel on the left-hand side. So this is what we call the admin panel on the left-hand side. You got your company dashboard link, your company management link, vehicle import, which we'll show you here in just a second, pre-trip planning, which gives you the ability to kind of plan your route, plan your trip. You enter in your heights, your width, your length, and your GVW. And this just gives you an idea of the route that you could potentially obtain with those dimensions. And I say potentially obtained, it's because this is pre-trip planning. At any point, your trip could be affected by any restriction or things like that. But this does gives you, an idea of your of what your route could look like. It is just a suggested route and not valid for travel. If you'll notice, for those of you that have used ProMiles' permitting routing system in the past, ARS, the routing is very similar. It's going to look a little bit different in the format and the layout, but the routing itself is going to look very familiar. There's not a lot of changes with that because we're bringing a new permitting system and utilizing the existing routing that we have in place. That's kind of what we call pre-trip planning, the ability to kind of plan your trip. Where in the past, we used to call it bid route. A lot of people still call it bid route, but now we refer to it as pre-trip planning, to be able to plan your trip in advance with an idea of where your route may go or what roads your route may take, knowing that this is just a suggested route and not valid for travel just yet. All right. I do want to touch on this HVUT link. This is for 2290 forms. So if you do a permit, I believe this is a gross vehicle weight permit that requires an HVUT 2290 form, here is where you would upload your 2290 form. You have the ability to click this link and upload the form from your computer, and I'll just upload a file here. And I'm going to hit save. This then submits that particular upload to be reviewed by the state of Montana. As you can see, the status is pending. Once they approve it, you'll see the approval date and time and the effective and expiration dates listed here. And then, of course, the VINs that would be associated to your 2290 form would be listed here as well after the form has been approved by the state of Montana. But from here, this is all you would do to submit the form to be reviewed. You click this button, upload your form, the correct and accurate form, of course, which would then be reviewed by the state of Montana. And then coming down here, this is the reports link. Clicking on that does give you the ability to run a customer reconciliation report. This gives you the option to select in what format you want the report to be, Excel or PDF. Usually I just leave it in Excel. That's the defaults. And then, of course, you can do all or run it by specific permit types. And then how would you like your included payments to be, which payment types you'd like to be included in your obviously, we won't have anything to run on this report because this is a brand new company. We have not yet issued a permit. run that report just yet. All right, I do want to go ahead and show you the route surveys link. This is where all of your system generated route surveys will be housed. Right now, since it's a brand new company, we don't have any route surveys yet. However, we will walk you through a superload permit that requires a superload here in just a few minutes. And then we'll be able to see a route survey generated and saved in this area. So we'll come back to this. Shopping cart is self-explanatory. If you have permits that are pending payment, they'll be listed in your shopping cart for payments. We don't have any yet, but again, we'll come back here once we issue a permit to be paid for. With that, I do want to jump back up to the top of company management. There's a couple of things I want to go over here. Obviously, you have your company name, which is what was entered and approved when you created the account. That's not something you can change. You can, however, update your phone number, your DBA, your email, your fax number as needed. You can also change your delivery method. You selected this when you created the account, but you do have the ability to change it if you'd like to. And then here, insurance. This is where you could upload your insurance. Now, insurance is required for permitting. So you can click this link. It'll take you to the insurance interface. And then you can click this plus sign right here. You can see that there's no insurance here at the moment. So we'll go ahead and click the plus sign. You can enter in your insurance information. And I'm just going to enter in some information from that I have on it. And then, of course, you can pick your effective date and expiration dates. And then the combined liability amount. We also give you this hover right here, or this little click. I shouldn't say hover because you got to click on it. If you click on that little question mark, it gives you some more details on the combined liability amount. The minimum level of financial responsibility for temporary truck permits and temporary fuel is $750,000. All other permit types require a minimum level of 1 million combined single limit. So we're going to type in 1 million for us. I think that's 1 million. And then we're going to upload our insurance document. Let's save. All right, so our changes have been saved. As you can see, now my company has uploaded insurance that's effective 12/1, expires 1/14, with a combined liability amount of 1 million. And then this download just gives you the ability to download the document that was just uploaded if you wish to re-download it. Another way to access the insurance portal is right here. So since we just uploaded our insurance, it gives us our status on the right-hand side. It gives us the ability to see that it expires 1/14/26. With that same link, if you click that same link, it takes you back to the upload insurance interface. So there's two ways to upload it, one from the dashboard and second from the company information page here. And as you can see, it gives you the same information here, the expiration date. Following that, I do want to jump into company assets. Here is where you can manage each of your company's assets. You have the ability to add in a contact, whether it's a business type or a permitting type. You enter in their first and last name, their email, their phone number. And then you also have the ability to view your address, your physical and mailing address. And then terminals. A lot of terminals is something we use in all of we have available in all of our systems, but it's not used very often. It's typically used by carriers that have, say, multiple yards that they work from. They can enter in what terminal or what yard the different yards or terminals they have available to them. They can enter those here, and they'll be housed in a list here. And then users. Here you can add new users or even edit existing users on the site. So this is the existing user I created earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and create a new user. So we'll go ahead and click create user just to show you how you can how you're able to add a new user. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create Miranda an account here. And then here, since I'm the first user in the account, this is my account I created. I created the company account. I have the ability to create subsequent users and select them to be either a user or a supervisor. So I'm just going to make her a supervisor, which also gives her the ability to to add users, her own users as well. And I'm just gonna, let's just say I know what her Okta login is. All right. And then, for example, if that's her user and her email and then her phone number, and then we just hit save. So the next time Miranda logs in, she'll, if she already has an Okta login with this particular login, she'll be able to log into the same company account. With that, I do want to now jump over to the vehicle import, because we'll be issuing a permit here in just a minute. We need a vehicle in the vehicle inventory. So vehicle import is just the ability to quickly upload a spreadsheet of vehicles that you have in your fleet. Say you have an Excel spreadsheet of all of the vehicles in on your computer, and you want to upload those quickly. You can do that here. The other option is you could, in company assets, you could add individual vehicles to your account. You can enter in the vehicle unit number, make, year, VIN, and things like that. You can do this one at a time. You'll have to do this one at a time. But like I said, if you have, let's say, 50, 100 vehicles in a spreadsheet that you're wanting to quickly upload, you can do so with the vehicle imports. And this page gives you the general information of what's required in order to upload the particular spreadsheet. So I have a spreadsheet handy that we're going to use. So once I only have one vehicle in this spreadsheet, by the way. That's why it's only pulling in one. But once you pull your spreadsheet up and upload it, it gives you a couple of these drop downs, and you have to correctly identify the information that's in each of the columns, right? In my spreadsheet, I've already set it up so that I have the first row is unit number, is the column headers. So that's my spreadsheet. The following that is the data for each of the vehicles. That's how I have my spreadsheet set up. So it's best to set up your spreadsheet in the same manner, where the very top row is the headers, unit number, year, make, so on and so forth. And that way, when you upload your spreadsheet, it already mostly matches. As you can see here, the unit number is in column 1. That's correct. Unit model year is column 2. Make is 3. VIN is 4. So on and so forth. Terminal can be left blank if you don't have a terminal. It's not required. And then the important thing here is that you select which row the data starts on. Since I have a header row, it's important, a header row in row 1, obviously. It's important that I select row 2 as to where the data, the vehicle information, the vehicle data actually starts. And that would be row number 2. So I have to select 2 from that. With that, after you've got your vehicle import drop down selected correctly, you just hit import sheet. And then it tells you the number of vehicles that have been imported successfully, any failures that may have occurred. if any failures do occur, they'll be listed here with a reason as to why they failed. That way you can modify your spreadsheet as needed, or maybe correct the spreadsheet as needed, so that you can successfully upload the spreadsheet thereafter. So we have one vehicle uploaded now. If we go back to company management and company assets, we have, if we click this drop down, as you can see, that vehicle's been uploaded. If that spreadsheet had, say, 50 or 100 vehicles in it, then all of those vehicles would, if they were successful, of course, would be listed in this drop down now, so that you don't have to go back and add them individually. But we did that one vehicle. It's listed here with the VIN and all of the information that was entered, so that's great. All right. And if we go back to company dashboard, there's a few more things on the dashboard I want to touch on before we start permit ordering. And that's right here on the, we'll start here on the right-hand side. As you can see, on the left-hand side, there's a shopping cart link. On the right-hand side, it gives you the number of permits ready for payment in the shopping cart and a total. Well, right now we have 0 and 0. That number will go up once we get a permit into the shopping cart. And then it gives you a link here to go to the shopping cart. That's just another way to access the shopping cart, a second method to get to this particular page. And then you have statistics, which of course tells you the number of permits that have been issued today and the number of permits that have been self-issued, the permits that have been issued by, that you have issued yourself. The top number includes permits that you issue yourself, and along with the permits that have been issued to you by maybe the state of Montana or something like that, or permit service. So that's just the total number of permits issued this day to this company, and this is the total number of permits you yourself issued today. We've already talked about insurance status. Right below that is a messages panel. This panel just gives you any alerts or messages that have been put on the dashboard by the state. Maybe it's some helpful information or some information that they would like to communicate to everybody that has logged in. That information would be housed under messages. So keep an eye out for any messages that may be listed here. And then this panel here. This is called, we like to call this the find panel. This is where you can filter by and find particular permits that have been associated to your company. You can look for permits via permit ID, permit number, permit type, along with a couple of other filter options. And this is really helpful if you have 50, 100 permits that you want to filter through that are displayed in this list below in the permit queue. And obviously right now there are no permits, but once we get 1 or 2 permits in there, you'll see, this will give you the ability to filter in what the permits that you wish to see on this particular in the permit queue. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let me go ahead and log out. I want to show you what the permit service login looks like here just a second before we do permit order, because we'll highlight the differences for the permit service first, and then the permit order is pretty much the same. So let me log in as a permit service, and I've got one to look at here that I've already logged in as, or have a login for, I should say. So I'm going to log in with my Okta login. All right, and here is a permit service login. As you can see, it's very, very similar in that you've got your left-hand panel, you've got your order permit link, you've got your find panel, shopping cart, statistics, insurance, and messages. And as you can see, this particular permit service, it's one of our test permit services that we use, has many other permits listed here that they've issued permits for. Of course, you've got your company name. These are the companies that I've issued permits on behalf of and behalf for, along with the status. And then, of course, some actions. We'll talk about the actions too once we issue a few permits for a regular customer. but there are a few actions you can see here in regards to the permit. And like I said, the three differences for a permit service that I wanted to highlight earlier is that when you issue a permit as a permit service, you have the ability to select the company that you wish to issue the permit for. So you can search for it by US DOT or by company name. So you have to search for a company to issue a permit for. That's one thing the permit services do. The next one is uploading insurance. So if you recall, as the carrier, uploaded insurance for my own account. But as a permit service, if you're needing to upload insurance for a new customer, you can do so here. You can search for them by US DOT or company name, and then upload insurance for that particular company. That last one was vehicle import. If you need to upload vehicles for a particular company, you can search for that particular company here. That way, if you're issuing permits on behalf of that company and they have a lot of vehicles, that they need uploaded in their inventory, you can do that for them before you go to issue their permit. So that way, you're not adding vehicles individually on their behalf. You have the ability to add those vehicles via a spreadsheet here. And it's just the same process that I demonstrated just a minute ago. The difference is, like I said, for a permit service, you have the ability to upload the spreadsheet for a specific company. So let me log out, and I'm going to log back in as that customer user. And we will do a super low permit. Just fun. All right. Okay, so from here, I'm logged back in as a regular carrier. As you can see, I don't have the I don't have the ability to, I don't see all the other permits, and I don't have the ability to search for specific companies when I go to order a new permit. It's defaulted to the company I'm logged in as, which, if you recall, the name was Customer Training. So when you start a new permit, your company is defaulted to the company being ordered or ordering the company the permit. Next, your contact information is the user that's currently logged in. So I'm logged in as myself. I have my contact name, phone number. It's already pulled in to this particular application. You can change this information on a permit by permit basis. Each of these fields you can change if if you'd like to. You can even change how you would like to receive the permit on a permit by permit basis. It defaults to the method that is selected in that company management information we showed you earlier. However, you can change it on a permit by permit basis if you wish. I'm just going to leave it at email. And then I'll just hit next because I don't want to change any of this information. I'm good with it. And then here you would select the permit type that you're wanting to order. You got your term, single trips, custom combine, gross vehicle weight, and vehicle weight analysis. What we're going to do is we're going to do a single trip. And then from there, you can select which permit definition you want to go with, whether it's single trip, a temp fuel, temp trailer, or temp truck. We're going to go with single trip. And then you have your start end dates. If you are self-issuing your permit, you want to verify your dates are correct. It defaults to the start date defaults to the current date, but you can definitely pick your start date if you're ordering your permit ahead of time. But we'll just leave that at 203. All right. The next page is what we call the vehicles page. You can see on the left-hand side here, it gives you the names of each of these pages. But this next one here is the vehicles page. So here you have the ability to manually enter in your vehicle information. If you want to enter in that in by hand, you can, or you have the ability to find from inventory. So if you click that, it brings up this list of all of the vehicles that are in your inventory. And this is really helpful if you have, like I said, 50, 100 vehicles that you want to filter through and search for, you can. Being that I only have one vehicle, I don't really need to search. So I can just select that one vehicle. And if I hit OK, it'll bring in all of that information that I've entered or that from the vehicle inventory. So that's super helpful. One of the things I recommend doing is that vehicle upload, especially if you have a lot of vehicles. That way you're not having to manually enter in the vehicle information every time you go do a permit. So that you can just select from your inventory. So I'll go ahead and hit next because I've already got all of my information entered. If I hit next, what this does is it does a search by VIN number for the license weight set by Safer. I'll just hit OK, and that brings us to the next page. But if I go back a page, I do want to show you what that did. So if you recall, my license weight I entered was 100,000, but based on my VIN number and what's stored in the Safer database, it does update my license weight to what is in that particular Safer database, which was 112. So I cannot change that. You know, as a customer carrier user of the system, I do not have the ability to modify the particular license weight that is set by Safer. From there, the next page is the load details page. From here, you would start with selecting your load code. And if you're familiar with routing in Montana, the routing doesn't change in that, you know, you have your specific routes that are allowed for Alberta, Shelby, or Eureka weights and Plentywood. I think there's a couple more. But the routing in that aspect has not changed. If you select one of those particular load codes, you are limited to those specific routes that are available to that to the permit. But for our purposes, I'm just going to select Other. And then we'll have to enter in a load description of what we're hauling. So let's just say we're hauling a generator, for example. And then from there, we do have to enter in our width, our length, our heights, our trailer length. Rear overhang is collected, but it is not required, and our GVW is required. So we're going to enter in some dimensions. And like I said, I know for training purposes that I want to show you all what a super load looks like and how to reuse that particular super load log number. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and make my length require super load and require route survey, which I know 200 feet will trigger that particular workflow. So I'm just going to put 200 for my length. And let's say for my height, I'm just going to do 14. And then for my trailer length, I'm just going to put in there, let's just say 100. And then for GVW, this you can enter in your GVW. I'm just going to put in 10,000. And then from here, I have the option to say my weight is legal or say my weight is overweight on axle/bridge. If I do legal weight, I don't have to enter in axle weights and spacings because I'm certified here that my weights are legal. But if I do overweight on axle/bridge, I do have to enter in axle weights and spacings. So for this, I'll just go ahead and do legal weight. We'll hit next. Here it tells me that based on the dimensions that I've entered and the configuration entered for this permit, it's been determined to be a super load. Like I said, I know that 200 feet length will require my load code to be super load, being that it'll be a C1, C2, or C3. The system determines that for you based on the dimensions that you enter. You have to select a load code. So I selected other, but then the system knows that based on what I've entered, I'm either a C1, a C2, or a C3. It does not tell you yet what particular C number you are in this at this point, but it does tell you that you are a superload. So we click OK. It brings us to the next page. Now, if you wanted to, you could go previous, and then it gives you, what your low code is assigned, and obviously it's going to be a C1 based on the dimension that I've entered. If we go back to the next page, this gives us the temporary registration. This shows on this permit every time, but it's not required. This just gives you the ability to add a temporary trailer registration along with the number of trailers, 1, 2, or 3. And it also gives you the ability to add on any temporary truck registration to this permit. This does affect your fees, your permit fees, if you're adding these things along with this application. But of course, you are not required to add trailer registration or truck registration if not needed. So for us, we'll just leave that. I won't add any temporary registration. All right, so we're just going to hit next. From here, this page will show for all superloads. If you have a superload log number, you can enter it in and validate it and apply it to your permit. That means you're reusing a previously approved superload log number to issue a subsequent superload permit. I'll show you how to do that here also. But first, we need to issue a superload. So we don't have one to validate right now. We're just going to leave it blank and hit next. And this is the route page. As you can see, it's very similar if you're familiar with the automated routing system, eParts, and the automated routing system. It's very similar in that you pick your address, intersection, latitude, longitude, or border crossings. I'll just do border crossing to border crossing for ease. And then you hit route. It's the basic same concept as we had in our previous routing system, but it does look a little different. It's newer. Once you do route, it gives you your route map with the blue highlight, and then of course your dimensions and things like that you're looking at. If any conditional overrides were found or bridges crossed, along with your route information, your origin, destination, distance, turn by turn. All of these things here in this section at least should look familiar. It's very, very similar to the origin and destination of the route that we produce in the previous automated routing system. And then right below that, if you're looking to request nighttime travel, you can check that box. But there is some details in that little question mark. If you click it there, if you click this box, it gives you a field here to enter in your justification for requesting night travel. If you do request night travel, you have to enter in a reason, and your permit will not self-issue. It will be submitted for review, regardless of what the dimensions are. If you're requesting night travel, it's going to get reviewed. But for us, we don't really want night travel on this particular purpose. So I'm just going to uncheck that box. And then we can hit next. And then we'll just keep going. All right. On the summary page, this just gives you the excuse me, a rundown of the permit application, your company name that you're ordering the permit for, your fees, your contact information, your permit type, your start and end dates, your vehicle information, and of course your load details that you entered in previously. And again, it gives you your C number, your load code, whether it's a C1, 2, or 3 on this particular page also. And then your route information. And then here it tells us whether you requested nighttime travel or not. And we did not check the box until no. From here, there is an attest statement at the very bottom. If you click submit, you cannot submit your permit without attesting to the attest statement. The permittee agrees that all information provided on the permit is accurate. Failure to provide accurate information may result in confiscation, citations, and fines, and or suspension of permitting privileges. So you do have to acknowledge that before you're able to submit your permit. So we're going to acknowledge that. We're going to hit submit. So our permit's now submitted to the system, and it's it gives you your permit ID, the status is route survey pending, and you can return to your company dashboard. So we're going to return. What this status means is basically it's pending a route survey. So this is where you need to provide your route survey. And the system does provide you a system generated route survey. So if it gets sent to the email that's on file with that particular application, or you can find it in here also. As you can see, now there's one route survey number 878 associated to permit ID 10863. From here, I can download the route survey. This is the route survey form. You can print this out. You can fill it out. It already includes some details for the company name, the route survey number, the load codes that are associated to the permit, and the dimensions that were entered. But you do have to complete, it gives you the route too, but there is information here that you must complete, whether it's the staging and parking areas and conflicts and things like that. So you would complete this, outside the system. Once the route survey has been completed, once you're satisfied with the information that's you've entered into the route survey, this is where you would upload the document, upload route survey. Once completed, you would click that, and it gives you the ability to upload the route survey back to the permit application. So let me upload one here. Find the route survey to upload. Right, that's the route survey we just downloaded, and I'm going to save. So right now, if we go back to the status of this permit, it's route survey complete, which means you've completed your route survey. Now it's off to the state of Washington, or excuse me, the state of Montana, to review your particular route survey and whether to and move along the process. So Miranda is on standby there. She's logged in and she can review the route survey for us. And Miranda, if you'd let us know once you've got that reviewed.
That's done.
All right, that was very fast. And then if I refresh my page, this tab, if I refresh my page, the status is now changed to route survey reviewed. And as you can see, there's a couple of actions here. I can copy this permit to create a brand new application, and I can view the permit's details, which gives you some basic information on this particular permit application, the status, the ID, the type, and things like that. However, it's not yet finished. The route survey, the status is route survey reviewed. So at this point, the permit is still being reviewed by the state of Montana. So Miranda, if you could please complete the next review process, which is processing the permit application you're in, Miranda.
Okay, give me one.
No problem. Now I'm lucky because I've got Miranda on the line processing my permit immediately.
Okay.
All right, so once she's got that done, I'm just going to hit refresh. And then, as you can see, the status is now changed to district review pending, which means the permit is now in the hands of the districts to do their particular review, whether it's districts 1, 2, and 3, or just 1 or just 2. At this point, I just know that it's in district review pending. So Miranda, if you could please go through the district review process on your end.
Done.
That was fast. And then I'm going to refresh. And of course, it's district review complete. So now I know that the district review has been completed. However, it does come back to the permit office for review. So Miranda, if you could please complete your review there. And just to note that, you know, it in our training here, it does seem like a lot of different reviews by one person, but in reality, the different statuses will let you know, kind of where the permit sits, whether it's with the permit office, whether it's with Bridge, whether it's with the district and things like that. That's what the statuses would do. So that's going to be a little bit different in a real world scenario when you have, the different personnel reviewing your statuses or reviewing your permit in the different areas versus just me getting Miranda to be able to do that.
Okay, your permit's been reviewed and approved.
Okay, so once that's done, if I refresh my page one more time, you can see that that permit is now gone. And if you look on the right-hand side, we can see that one permit is ready for payment. Now, when the permit gets approved and is ready for payment, the contact information, the contact email that's associated to the permit gets a notification. They get an email that says, hey, your permit's ready for payment. So once that happens, you can log in. You can go to your shopping cart that now has one permit ready for payment with a grand total of $10. So I go to the shopping cart. And then from here, if you have more than one, you can do select all, and it will select all of your permits, or you can select them one at a time. It's really up to you. But since you only have one, I'll just go ahead and select the one. You can cancel the permit from here, or you can view the permit's details. But you've gone through the trouble of, or we have, of getting this permit into the shopping cart. Thank you, Miranda. So we're going to go ahead and pay for it. So when you check out, this gives you the permit to be authorized for payment. From here, obviously, you won't have a dummy payment option in production. You'll have credit card and ACH debit. So we're going to do credit card. And we're going to process this payment, and then we can hit confirm. And then this takes you off to the payment processor, the credit card processor. It's got my information already in there from my account. So I don't need to enter that information in. I can just hit next. And then from here, it does ask you for credit card information. So being that this is a test site, I can use a test credit card that I have saved. I can agree to the user agreement, hit submit, and it's running through its processes. And then you have your receipt, your test receipt, really, from the processor. Once I hit done, it will take me back to this issued permits page. What this page is, it just gives you the permit ID, the permit number, and the ability to download the PDF. And keep in mind, I selected email for my delivery method, so it gets emailed to me, but again, I have the ability to download it here too. So this is the permit PDF. It gives you your company information, who approved it, who issued it, which would be me as a company user. Gives you your company information, address, your insurance information, and the part that I want to point out is it also gives you your Superload log number. So this is the number that was approved for this application. This is the number that we'll use to issue subsequent Superload permits here in just a minute. But it does give you, this is the permit. This is your feed table. This is your vehicle information that was entered, your load details in what was entered. Scroll down a little bit. It does give you your route information. And for the most part, the route information, like I said, is going to look very similar to the previous permits that y'all had in the system, but again, this is a brand new permitting system that includes that routing. So your permit's going to look a little familiar in the routing aspect, but quite a bit different and new in the permitting aspect. And then their general conditions, followed by any permit restrictions that have been applied to your particular permit. And then structure restrictions. Structure restrictions are any bridge structure restrictions that have been applied to your permit, if there are any. And then that one of the last pages is going to be your turn-by-turn directions, which, like I said, should be very similar and familiar to you all in the routing aspect. That's the PDF. So I'm going to go back to my return to home, which brings me back to my dashboard. As you can see, we have that one permit listed here now. It's got our permit number, it's got the permit type, when it was submitted, and the current status, which is issued. So as you can see, we got a few more actions here now besides just the copy and just the view permit details. We have the ability to download that PDF here now too. So we click that, and again, that just downloads another copy of the PDF. Right next to that is the ability to create a receipt. So if you click that, that gives you the ability to download excuse me, the receipt associated to that particular permit. And that receipt gives you, some basic information from the company, the legal name, the address, the US DOT if there was one. It'll also list out all of the permit numbers, the payment method, the total that was paid, and also the convenience fee associated to the permit that was taken during the credit card payment process. So that is the receipt for your particular payment for this permit. So what I want to do now is I do want to show you, let's see here, how to issue a second superload permit using the previously issued and approved superload log number. So to do that, we start a new permit. You can order a new permit or you can copy an existing permit. The important thing to remember, and I'll show you, the system does this for you. But the important thing to remember is that the second or subsequent superload permit has to have the dimensions cannot exceed the previous permit, first of all. The second permit dimensions cannot exceed the previous original superloads permits dimensions. And when I say dimensions, that includes your length, your width, your height, your gross vehicle weight, your trailer length, your axle weights and spacings, if there are any. It includes all of that. And it also verifies that your routes can be still traveled, that there are not any new restrictions associated to your second permit's route and things like that. So for example, if you have a superload that you ran 2 months ago that you want to do now, but there's construction in the way now on that route, you won't be able to reuse that superload log number until that construction and restriction gets cleared. You'll have to submit a new permit application with a new route, for example. But for our high level demonstration here, I'm going to show you what that kind of looks like. So if we just copy this existing permit, and once we copy a permit, it does copy over the permit type, so you can't change that. You can change your start and end dates if you'd like. I'll just leave it defaulted. But it does go ahead and copy over your vehicle information, so you don't have to re-enter that information. And it does copy over your load code, your description. We can just leave that as is. It copies over your dimensions, so you don't need to change any of that. But what I do want to show you is, for example, if I change my width, let's say I want to make this one 10'1", and then I hit next. And then I'm not going to add any temporary registration, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to enter my log number, which was C1-2500138. C1-2500138. So that's the one that I just issued. So if I validate it, it'll tell me that the system does a check. And like I said, it does this check with all of your dimensions to include your axle weights and spacings, if there are any, your weights, your routes, your dimensions, and everything. Those things need to fall within the parameters in order for you to validate the particular superload lock number. Now, that's because I changed my like I said, I added an inch to my width. So this is going to go back and say, oh, I didn't mean to change that. I meant to have it at 10 foot width still. So we go back, C2500, oopsie, 1-2500, 8. And if we validate that number, it'll give me all passes now for this particular permit. The system does that check on your behalf. And then, of course, you get a summary of your height, width, and length, your chart length and approval, and your route and destination. And if, for example, let's say I entered in the wrong number or something like that. If I entered in 137, I hit validate. It'll tell me that that user or that log number does not exist. That's not the right number. That's because it could, it could be associated to a different company or things like that. You got to enter in a company or a log number that's associated to your company. So we're going to go back and validate my number. Important thing to note here is that once you validate that superload log number, you do want to hit apply. You do have to hit this apply superload log number. Once you hit apply, that applies this particular superload log number to this application to be issued. So I've hit applied, and of course you can remove it if you wish, but I don't want to remove it. I want to apply it. So I've applied that particular superload log number. When I hit next, it brings me to the route page. As you can see, one second here. Validate. All right. When you get to your route page, as you can see, it does go ahead and load up the route for you. You cannot change the route. Everything's grayed out. You do not have the ability to change the route. That is because you're using, you're reusing a previously approved superload log number, which, like I said, necessitates that you meet the parameters of the dimensions and, of course, the route. Your route cannot be changed. So what I would like to do is go ahead and hit next. And then here on the last page, you have, again, you have to attest to the attest statement. And of course, you have your final summary. Final summary. And then if you hit submit, as you can see, your payment, or excuse me, your permit goes directly to pending payment. It does not require the dance that Miranda and I did just a few minutes ago to get the permit approved. It went straight to your shopping cart for payment. And like I said, the reason for that is because we applied the previously approved superlog load number to that superload permit application, which applies the previous approvals to your second permit. So we're going to go ahead and pay for that one too. All right, now I'm going to do credit card again. earlier, so I'll just go do done. And then if we view, so we've got a new permit ID, we've got a new permit number. Let's go back to the dashboard. As you can see, I've got two different permit numbers, two different permits. This is 1973197 is the one that I just did earlier. 3199 is my newest one. If I look at the permit PDF for that new permit, I can see that, this is the second permit, 3199. However, the super load log number is still C1-2500-138 because that was the log number that I had used to issue this second subsequent permit. If I did not reuse an existing log number and I created a new permit that required all new approvals, I would get a new super load log number. But because we use an existing one, it does put the existing one that was used on the permit PDF. Okay, so that's basically the super load process on how to issue, a super load and how to reuse a particular super load log number. I do want to jump back into a couple of specific permitting aspects, particularly axle weights and spacings. So let's do that next. There's a couple of things actually that I want to show you. I just wanted to go ahead and get that super load process out of the way so that you can see what issuing a permit from the beginning to end, it kind of looks like. But we're going to start a new super load, or excuse me, a new single trip permit. And we're going to pick that same vehicle from our inventory. But the system does what we call a VIN validation. This is just some particular aspects that you may see in permitting that I want to kind of touch on. So if you recall, I entered in this vehicle previously and I knew that this VIN is a good VIN. It's a valid VIN with a valid make and a valid year. However, because the system does a VIN validation, which means it checks to make sure your VIN is accurate and correct. If you were to enter in, if there was something wrong with your VIN, say you were missing a number, for example, I took the 8 out of there, the last digit. I hit next. It does a VIN validation that tells me VIN validation failed for this VIN. Basically, there's something wrong with the VIN. I need to go back and take a look at it. So I have an option. I can edit the vehicle or I can proceed. If I proceed, the permit will get submitted to the state to be further reviewed. It cannot be self-issued. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and proceed and show you that it gets submitted. 1 second. I'm just going to select other training, and I'm going to make my dimensions really small. In this case, it normally would self-issue, right? Legal weight, and then we'll come back and do axle weights and spaces here in just a second. Get my route, and again, I'm just picking a border-to-border route just for ease, so we can, move along with this particular training. But next, and then I'm going to attest to this attest statement, submit. As you can see, my permit has been submitted and then the status is pending. And again, that would be something that is reviewed by the state before it can be, sent back to you for payment. And the reason, like I said, it's pending is because of that particular VIN. There was something wrong with it. It needed to be reviewed and or overridden. If the state would like to override, they can. They have that ability to do so. But that is in the hands of the state to review. Let's do another one. So I'm just going to go copy that one again. So I wanted to just quickly get back to the vehicle page. On the vehicle page, like I said, it's still missing that VIN, or still missing that last digit, because I copied the permit. It copies over what was on that previous permit. And like I said, if I hit next, let's see, let me make it a good number. If I hit next, it does the license weight, it sets that. But if I go back and let's say this VIN is now valid, so I know it's a valid VIN because it's saved from my particular inventory there. If for whatever reason I have this VIN, but then I selected, let's say instead of Peterbilt, I selected Mac, and I hit next. With the VIN validation, it does tell me that based on the VIN validation, it expected Peterbilt, not Mac. And that's the same failure. It's a similar failure to the one we saw previously. You can edit the vehicle and select Peterbilt, or you can proceed and submit it to the state for review. So we're just going to edit the vehicle and then select Peterbilt again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select the year, and instead of 2000, we're going to change that to 2001. If we hit next, it does tell you that it expected the year 2000 instead of 2001. So it gives you the ability again to edit the vehicle or proceed and submit it to the state for review. And if you have something wrong with both, the year and the make, and if you hit next, it again tells you that both of those things are wrong. And it gives you the opportunity to either edit the vehicle or proceed, which again submits the permit for review. So we're just going to edit that vehicle again. I'm going to change my information back to what I know is correct. I think it was Peterbilt. And then, like I said, once it's corrected, if we hit next, it sets that license weight again. But now we don't have that. We don't fail the VIN validation now. As you can see, that it doesn't fail, and it sends us to the next page. So that's kind of what the VIN validation looks like there. And that, like I said, is based off of your VIN number. So if you happen to enter in, not just an incorrect make and plate, but remember, if you mistyped your VIN for whatever reason, if your VIN is incorrect in itself, but your make and plate are correct, it does a VIN validation to tell you that there's something wrong with the VIN for you to kind of review and decide if you want to edit or decide if you want to submit it to the state for review. All right, I do want to kind of dive into axle weights and spacings now. So before we do axle weights and spacings, it does ask you what your gross vehicle weight is. So I'm going to type in 100,000. For example, if I know my gross vehicle weight is going to be 100,000. And then I will select overweight on axle / bridge. Because I know I'm going to be overweight on axle and or bridge. I'll select that, hit next. And this page you did not see previously, because previously we did not enter in any axle weights and spaces in our permit. We simply made our permits oversized only. So for this one, it does give you the axle weights and spaces page, because like I said, we selected that we are overweight on axle / bridge. So with that, it defaults to 2 axles. If you have 2 axles, that's what you have. Or you can enter in more axles with this plus sign. Take away axles with this minus sign, or you can change the number, however you like. Once you have the number of axles that you need, you enter in your spacing, your weight, and then you select your axle type. So we're just going to go enter in our weights. And these are all, of course, fake weight that I'm entering in. And I'm just going to make all of my axles have, for example, 20,000 pounds. The system does calculate your total weight and your total excess weight. And it tells you what your total excess weight is for each of those. And then if you enter in your spacings, let's just say these are my spacings, your excess weight does recalculate based on what you're entering. And then, of course, you can select your axle type. Drives, trailer. And if you had trunnion or dual lane trailers, you would select this toggle right here. That gives you the ability to enter in your configuration for trunnion axles or dual lane trailers. You would fill this information out. It gives you the diagram for what each of these widths would refer to, your A, your B, and your C. But if you don't have trunnion or dual lane trailers, you would just untoggle that. And that's off by default, of course. You would need to turn it on if you want to enter in trunnion dual lane trailers. And then, of course, you have your display configuration. If you click that, it brings up your configuration with your spacings. It's just a cute little drawing of what your wheels and your spacings would look like. You can do your side view or your top view. Your top view. And then if you needed to add in more axles, you can. Let's say I add in one more axle, it'll update the drawing there. And then if I add in another axle and I put that at 10,000 weight, for example, and I do booster. Since I added in another axle and I added in an additional 10,000 pounds of weight, my total weight is now 110,000. If you recall, I entered in my gross vehicle weight at 100,000 on the previous page, but since my weight combines on this page is added up to be more than 100,000, it's 110 now. If I hit next, it tells me that the GVW must equal the weight of all axles. So if you recall, my GVW was 100,000. So I have the option here to either, maybe I mistyped my weight, so I can redo my weights on this page so that they're equal to 100,000. Or if I entered in my weights correctly and my weights are, my GVW should be 110, if I hit update GVW, that updates my GVW on the previous page to 110. So I don't have to go back and change it. So now my GVW is 110 based on what I entered here. And then if I hit next, that's it for axle weights and spacings. If I go back and just show you the page again, that's really it for axle weights and spacings. If I hit next, it brings me to the temporary registration page, which, if you want to, I can go ahead and add on some information here. And we can see that in action too. And I'll go ahead and issue this permit as well. We can reuse a superload log number if we're doing a superload and we have, the previous permit to use, previous superload log number used. We can apply that here, but we're not going to do that this go round. And we have our route here because I copied a previous permit. So I'll just go ahead and route it. And then obviously there's really no change on this page at all between permit and permit. It's still the same concept where you're getting your route and your route information. And then on the summary page, of course, you have the same information. You're ordering for your fees. As you can see, the fees are a little bit different now. It's more than $10. I do want to show you this a little bit here. There's the excess axle weight trip permits, which is determined based off of your weight and your miles and things like that. That's calculated out to 168. And since I added on the temporary truck permit and the temporary trailer permit, those fees are tacked on as well, 65 and 45. and it gives you your total. From there, you can see, you know, the basic contact, the permit information, the vehicle information, the dimensions and things like that. And down here, you did not see this previously because on the previous permits, we did not enter in axle weights and spacings. However, since we did enter in the axle weights and spacings today, or not today, I should say, on this particular one, you do see the axle weights and spacings summarized here for you as well, along with the route information. And then we're just going to go ahead and attest. Like I said, we do need to attest to this attest statement for each permit at the very end. Otherwise, you won't be able to issue it. What I didn't mention on our previous permits was, and I'm sure you've seen it on the other ones, was request technician review. If we click that button, it gives us the ability to submit this permit for review by the permit office. You would obviously have to enter in a reason or a message explaining why you would like for this to be reviewed. Obviously, submitting this permit would not self-issue the permit. They would have to process the permit on their end, review it, and approve it or deny it or what have you. But that's the process there. We won't submit this one for review, but we'll just cancel out of that and we'll just hit submit. And as you can see, this particular one is now pending payment. And then another option for paying for the permit is right here. You can pay for it right away. You don't have to go to your shopping cart to pay for it, but you have the option to go ahead and click pay for permits now and pay for this one right away. Go ahead and do that. And it's the same process where it collects your building information and your card number. And again, that's just a test credit card. Work anywhere else. And then your receipt, which breaks down each of the fees that we have. And then if we hit done, I do want to show you the difference of this permit PDF and the receipt. So on this particular permit, as you can see, I'll zoom in. You can see that the superload log number is NA because it's not a superload, and we did not use a superload log number to issue the permit. And it's this particular signature permit in itself is not a superload, so a superload log number was not generated based on my dimensions. The fee table, as you can see, it's a little different than what the previous permits were. They were $10. This one obviously is 10 plus the excess weight that we have because we entered in axle weights and spacings, plus the truck and trailer temp permits that we added on with those two toggles, and it gives us our total collected. So those are your various fee amounts that are shown on the permit PDF itself, along with the axle weights and spacings table. So this does break down your axle weights and spacings here on the PDF itself. And then on the dashboard, if we go back to this dashboard here, as you can see, there's a receipt icon for that one too. If we click on that receipt icon, it will give us the receipt for this payment. Zoom in, which breaks down the permit numbers. And again, if there are multiple, if you pay for multiple permits in a batch, say you pay for 5, 6, 10, whatever permits at one time, all of those permit numbers will be listed here in a comma separated list. So because we only paid for one permit at a time, it's only going to give me one. But it gives me the payment method and again the total number that was paid with the convenience fee in a separate line. Convenience fee from the credit card processor. All right. And like I said, this gives us the queue that you can search for with the filter by. And to go back to the filter, because we didn't have permits earlier that we couldn't filter by, we can do that now. So let me find this particular permit ID. This one is 10871. So if we filter by 10871, hit the magnifying glass icon. That filters the dashboard to just bring me that one particular permit I'm looking for. This is super helpful if you have, like I said, many permits that you're needing to search through. Obviously, I only have 3. But if you have many permits to search through or filter by, this is super helpful. You can filter by permit number if you have that instead of the permit ID. And then you can filter by permit type, which gives you the types that you can filter by. And I mean, I only have single trip right now. So unit number, you can filter by unit number, issue date, all of which are going to be today's date, start date, all of which are today, and then of course VIN number. So you can filter by any one of these options that you have handy. Most of the time, I think for me personally, when I'm using this, I go by permit ID or permit number. I think maybe that's what you all would filter by most, if not the unit number. I would think that you have handy. But all of the information that you could filter by is included on your permit. So permit number at the top, permit ID, permit type at the top, followed by your vehicle information, which includes your unit number here and the VIN here. All right. And as far as permits go, the look of every one of your permits outside of custom combines, the look of all of your permits is going to be very similar to this. It's going to be the same look and layout. The custom combine permits are going to look how they generally have always looked in the past. All right, let me check my notes here. Miranda, do we have any questions from the chat that we kind of have not touched on or want to kind of look at?
Yes, there is one question. Is ePart still going to be around in case term permits that were already bought for 2026 and they...
Miranda, I've handled that. That's not
okay.
for customers. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate that.
2 more questions just came in. Can you go to the vehicle import? They'd like a screenshot of the CSV specifications.
Absolutely. Jody, was that you had a comment on that?
The instructions for that will be on our frequently asked questions document. So we will be sending out a frequently asked questions document that will answer a lot of these questions and provide direction for a lot of this.
Thank you, Casey. But yeah, I'm sharing the screen now. Feel free, if you wanted to, you can take a screenshot of that. Yeah, this is basically the layout of what you need. Let me, as a matter of fact, this might be helpful too. I'm gonna pull up the document that I have. All right. This is the document that I actually uploaded during the training. So it's really basic. I make the header, the first row number 1, the header row with the various headers, and then following that, I would just fill in the rest of this information with all of my vehicle information. And then obviously, the unit, it'll just include the information that you need, that you have. So that is the basic vehicle import spreadsheet. Let me look at my notes here, see if there's anything else we'd like to go over. If Miranda or Casey, if y'all have anything you'd like to jump into, if we don't have any other questions, I know we still have quite a bit of time.
I do. There is a question in here from Jessica Martin asking if we'll be going over changing the route or will it operate similarly to the current platform. And There we go. I do want to add, though, if you're referring to amending permits, we won't have the ability to amend permits. It will be a new permit, and then we'll just adjust the fees as needed. I hope that answers your question, Jessica. VWA numbers will be in the system. However, we will not be able to use them on single trip permits at this time. You can apply them to term permits, John. Those are all the questions in the chat right now, Kit, and I believe everything was answered up to this point.
All right. Okay. I know we had some permit service folks on the call, so I believe. Is there anything from you guys that you had any questions on in particular too? I know we didn't do much of the permit services aspect, but if you have any, specific questions from you all, we can dive into that as well. And I'll go ahead and, before you have any questions, I'll go ahead and log in as the permit service just in case.
There are some more questions coming in the chat. Does each DOT holding company need to have their own account registered before a permit service can issue permits for them?
The answer to that, yeah, you're good, Casey. Yes. To expand on that a little bit, so yes, if you're needing a permit and you're going through a permit service, the permit service, there needs to be an account for the carrier in the system before the permit service can issue the permit for the carrier. However, the permit service does have the ability to request a new account, request that new account for you. So if the permit service logs in and they got you on the line or on the email, what have you, and they're needing to submit a new account request, they have the option to submit an account with the USDOT or submit an account for issuing permits and money, but do not have a USDOT number. So the permit service can do that. If the account's not in the system yet, the permit service can request that account and then issue the permit thereafter.
Okay. Our next question is, so every single trip permit needs to be put in manually every time?
So I think that question is referring to some of our single vehicles or other units that have been identified as a super load, but they've been issued a vehicle weight analysis to allow them for statewide travel. That process is still being discussed since we're not allowing VWAs on single trip permits at this time. Just to make note, we are going to implement that as a post-launch item, and so we will eventually be able to attach those vehicle weight analyses to single trips. So John, in the meantime, yes, you will still be manually doing a single trip permit.
Our next question that we have is, can you give an example of a term permit process?
Absolutely. Let's see. Log back in as my customer. And we're talking about, are we talking about term excess weight?
Kit, I would probably just show a term oversized permit.
That works. All right, so it's very similar in that you go to create a new permit. So we start there, and from there you got your contact information, and then of course your permit type. So obviously, if you're not doing a single trip, you're doing a term, you would select term. And then you have your various term options, one of which is the size, that term oversize that Casey was just mentioning there, which defaults to term oversize. And your start and end dates, it's the same kind of concept there, where you select your start and end dates. Then hit next. And again, you select your vehicle. There's no different here. There's nothing different here from the single trip outside of, as you can see, there's no license weight field on this particular permit application for a term, but you can still select your VIN, your vehicle unit number, and your from your inventory. Hit next. From there, you have your list of load codes that you choose from. So let's say we choose grain. Being that this is a term oversized permit, your dimensions, your overall dimensions are defaulted to 15 wide, 95 long, and 15.6 high. You cannot change that, being that it's a term oversized permit. So if you were, let's say you change it to something different. Let's say you go with, I don't know, what's a good one? Equipment. Oh. This one's 15 feet wide, 95 long, and 15.6 high. So your overall dimensions are tied to your particular load code that are preset based on what you selected. So let's just go with equipment next. And then you have your summary page. And again, it's the same information in the same concept of the single trip. That gives you your basic company information, fees, vehicle, load code, dimensions, and of course you have to legally attest that the permittee agrees to this information is accurate. Submit and pay for. So as far as the permit process between terms and single trips, it's really the same concept, where you start that particular permit type, you go through the various pages for vehicle information, load information, and all the way through permit payments. And of course, it just depends within that application what the details require, whether it's a single trip that requires district and or bridge, or if it's just a term permit that doesn't require any review because your VIN validation pass and things like that, it can be self-issued as we're doing here now. But your PDF ends up looking just about the same. Obviously, your permit type is going to be different. You're going to have different permit numbers and permit IDs. But the information there is going to be, like I said, in the same layout, where you got your fee table, followed by your vehicle and your load details. And one thing that you won't see, obviously, on a term permit, it's going to be your driving directions, your turn by turn, because it is not an automated routed permit. You won't see that information here. But you do get your permit restrictions and general conditions on it. I hope that answered any questions that anybody might have had in general about term permits. All right, so if there are not any other questions for me, Casey and Jerry, I can turn it over to you all if you had any other closing words or comments. I almost said documents. You don't have any closing documents right now. Other closing words and things like that before we officially end this training.
I don't have anything. We did record this, and Casey, are we going to make this available?
Yes, I was just putting something into the chat, but I can talk on it. So we're going to make these recordings available on our website. On on Monday, we will have posted in our attention section the frequently asked questions document, the recordings to the trainings, and the URL to the eTRIPS program, and then probably some contact information for production support.
System go live.
When will the system go live? So our plan right now is December 8th. 8 o'clock in the morning.
But we're also not going to shut ePart down until Sunday night, so permits can be issued over the weekend, correct?
Yes. ePart for permitting will be cut off at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Oh, 4 o'clock.
I don't have anything else.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just to close it for us, I think we do have one more of these trainings that Miranda will run through in the next couple of days. It was my pleasure. I hope it was helpful. If anyone has any other needs or questions or something like that, like I said, this will be made available, and feel free to hop on our next one coming soon.